Hi, this is Cece with Going Solo, and you are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And today with me, I want to move right in because we have our Author's Corner, Meet the Author, and we have with us Suzanna Mathews. Welcome to the show, Suzanna.
Thank you for having me, Cece.
Oh, it is great to have you. You have this wonderful book out. It's called Revising Mrs. Robinson, and your website is, what is the name again? It's thedatemaven.com, right?
You got it. That's correct.
Yes, thedatemaven.com. So we're going to talk about this because I found this to be very interesting. And you're talking about cougars.
I am, yes.
Yeah, hold the book up. That's good. Hold the book up so everyone
can see it. Yes, well, you know what
Revising Mrs. Robinson. So I think it's a very cool subject. So tell us a little bit about yourself, first of all, and how you got into writing, and then move into writing the book. What kind of motivated you into writing this book?
Sure. Well, just a word about my background. I've been a connector all my life and a communicator all my life. Those have sort of been my brand attributes, if you will. And I became a dating coach and matchmaker about 6 years ago, and I'm really passionate about helping people to have happy, healthy relationships. It's kind of funny because I saw someone post something on Facebook just 5 minutes ago. So what is a healthy relationship anyway? So I know that this is something that people are challenged with, and it's on people's minds. So that's kind of those are the waters that I swim in. And I started to notice as I got interested in this topic, and I'll tell you how that happened, but I started to notice sort of different cultural phenomena, if you will, TV shows like Younger or Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce or Significant Mother that seem to touch on this topic of age gap relationships, either comedically or dramatically or whatever. And pop songs like Fergie's MILF Money that is a very salacious take on it. And it's not necessarily a new idea. The title refers to the character Mrs. Robinson, who was played by Anne Bancroft in the 1967 film The Graduate. I'm guessing that you probably remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And 2017 actually marks the 50-year anniversary of that film, which was pretty significant when it came out. And I hope that a whole new generation of audiences will be able to appreciate it as well. So in that film, just a refresher, a young college graduate is sort of seduced by the older woman next door. I thought it was kind of interesting that older woman was played by an actress who was only 7 years older. Dustin Hoffman was only 7 years younger than Anne Bancroft. So that tells you a little something about Hollywood casting right there.
Right.
But anyway, so that was sort of how that made its way into the title. But my interest in sort of gender roles in society and sexuality and culture goes back to the 90s when I was in college, and I was just really soaking up everything about those subjects. Fast forward a few years, when I was teaching speech and drama at the college level, I was in my mid-30s, and I was really surprised at the number of students who would flirt with me, hit on me. It didn't matter if I was single or married. There just seemed to be a lot of young male attention. And I thought, what's that about? Because I thought I was pretty clear. Like, I'm not the kind of instructor you can flirt your way to an A or anything like that. You have to earn it the old-fashioned way. So I was curious about that, but it wasn't until a few years later when I was single and I was suddenly younger men seemed to be coming out of the woodwork, and I had the opportunity to date some of them. But I felt some internal resistance around that. And I guess you could call it a mindset problem. I sort of had some fears and some self-doubt and some self-judgment. And I really wanted to explore, all right, sister, what's going on here? Everyone thinks you're this evolved, contemporary, independent, progressive woman. So what's your problem?
Well, that's it. And I wonder too, because we've grown up with the idea that men date younger women and it's okay.
Yes.
So why is it different for women to date younger men?
Well, so in my research, and my research consisted of sort of two phases. I interviewed a lot of women around the country who either were in relationships with significantly younger men, or had been in the past. And then I got into the social science research, and I kind of nerd out over that, to be honest with you. But I found a phenomenon called female hypergamy, which I know is a really big, probably off-putting word for a lot of people. But female hypergamy refers to that unspoken rule, and I'm going to use my air quotes there, that women are forbidden to date or mate socioeconomically lower. It's fine to be aspirational, so it's women are often even still encouraged to date men who are great protector providers. Mm-hmm. We are discouraged from dating down, to use a rough term.
So you would think that if they're younger, you're dating down. I mean, because I'm older. I'm in the more mature area, and so how much down are we talking about? How much younger are we talking about?
Well,
because with women my age, to date a little bit younger is actually a pretty cool thing.
Yeah,
things operating for the guys still. When you go a little bit older, you have a little bit of trade, you have more companionship.
Yeah. Well, and it can really depend. So, social scientists are telling us that young men are not necessarily going to college in the same numbers that young women are, and that if they are going, they aren't necessarily graduating and completing degrees in the same number that women are. And they're pointing to a little bit of a division or a rift, where going forward, we're going to have more women who are white-collar wage earners and more men who are blue-collar wage earners. And these social scientists are telling us that, hey, ladies, if you want to not be single, if you want to make your marriage and family dreams come true here, you may need to really reconsider that white-collar status as one of your so-called criteria that you have in mind when selecting a date or a mate. And there may be more mixed collar marriages, so white collar, blue collar pairings may be more of a result. And that could have some good implications for the older woman, younger man pairing as well.
Wow, that's very interesting. When you're dating, I just never thought about it like that. I never thought about, I don't know. I just kind of, you're either kind of attracted and you have the same interests. I've always kind of focused on that. Mm-hmm. Never really on the status of someone, whether you're dating up but when I was reading some of your information, you talked a lot about the vibration, and maybe that's where that comes in. You're at that same vibration level. Mm-hmm. Because so often when we talk about dating younger, as far as the compatibility, you may not be at the same level, the vibration level. So what would you think about that? What would you say?
Or I might argue that you may be evaluating compatibility based on some really ancient standards. So that woman who kind of has it in mind that she has to date the lawyer, the doctor, the pharmacist, the CEO, maybe that attitude or that aptitude of dating the best protector provider, that really protected our cavewoman ancestors, and that was a really good strategy. But in 2016, 2017, is that same strategy really necessary, right? And as a dating coach and matchmaker, I talk to people a lot about their values and their beliefs and their lifestyle. And if compatibility exists in those two areas, then to me it makes little difference what they each do for a living and what their respective ages are.
That's very interesting. Years ago when I was dating, and before I met my ex-husband, I said no more was I going to date the muscle men. I said I used to date the bouncers. Date the bouncers. They always look so hot. All the muscles, all the bronze, but no brains. Yeah. And so I thought I'm going to go, for someone that has a little bit more brains in it, because I felt like the compatibility wasn't really there for me. Mm-hmm. After the lust wore off, there wasn't anything left. You do have to have a conversation, that kind of thing. So, I think this is very interesting what you're saying. So let's talk a little bit about what I was reading in your book, how to navigate. So if you decide that you've been out there dating and you'd like the idea of maybe someone a little bit younger, if you're finding the older crowd not really kind of working for you, what would you suggest, that people should do in order to meet, someone that might be just not like young, but a little bit younger than you?
Right. Well, you mentioned that you kind of set your picker to veer away from those muscle men, but I will say that the gym is actually a great place to meet someone younger. Really, any place that you would normally meet any other type of person. So even if you're seeking to date same-age individuals, those same places you might go to, maybe fundraisers, bars and restaurants, singles events, you're just kind of fine-tuning your radar to a different frequency.
Okay. Now, would you say that these relationships, do they last for shorter periods of time, or are we looking at long-term relationships here?
This was one of my primary questions or curiosities when I jumped into this, because I really wondered if they could go the distance. So some can and do, and some don't. And it often seems to revolve around a couple of different things. And one is, what are their goals for the relationship? For many, the chemistry burns hot and heavy early on, and it is just sort of a highly sexual, high chemistry relationship. And it's a transitional relationship. Maybe one of those relationships that kind of moves you through a certain phase or certain era of life, and then it's finished and both parties go on in different directions. And then for others, they did experience longevity. For those who seem to reach the level of commitment and monogamy, and they have the hope of having a long-term relationship, but it didn't go the distance, the pivotal issue tended to be children. So with several couples that I talked to, the younger man wanted children, biological children. The older woman either had raised her children and didn't want more, or couldn't have more. And so for some, that became the issue that forced the breakup and forced the couple to go separate ways.
Okay. It's very interesting. Now, when you did your study, did you also compare it to men dating younger women and women dating younger men, or no?
That would have been an interesting question to ask. No, I did not. I was pretty narrow in my focus, but that issue doesn't exist, because men can procreate their entire lives. So if a younger woman wants to have a family, an older man is her partner, even if he has a family that they're already grown and maybe have flown the nest, there's really nothing that prevents him from starting all over again if he wants to.
Right. So do you find that more women today, the reason I say this is because I've been talking to a lot of my friends, and what they're saying is that the pool is narrowing down. The older we get, our dating pool is getting narrower and narrower. There seem to be more females out there dating than males. And so do you think this might be why women are turning towards a little bit younger mate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it could be. I mean, I like to encourage people to consider going 10 years up or 10 years down, so that they have a nice, broad spectrum that they can date along. Not everybody's comfortable with that. It seems like, though, the women who do tend to find themselves attracted to younger men just kind of have a younger spirit. And maybe they've had some experiences with boyfriends or husbands where they weren't at the same energetic level that the woman was. And so that kind of nudges them in that younger direction.
Yeah, I'm okay with it, being a little bit younger, and as long as they're okay with being a little bit older. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do is let's take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about this, and I'll share with you a little story that I had that happened in my life, and it kind of jump-started really my recovery from a divorce. So we'll talk about that when we get back. So this is Cece with Going Solo. You are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And we do have Suzanna Mathews here. She is with the Date Maven, and she has this fantastic new book out called Revising Mrs. Robinson. So we'll be right back. Okay, thank you, Suzanna. So we're going to go ahead and come right back. Okay. Well, this is Cece with Going Solo. You are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And we were talking with Suzanna Mathews, the first part of the show, regarding her new book, Revising Mrs. Robinson. And she's talking about the cougars, the ladies kind of being a little bit more attracted to the men. And she does have a site called the Date Maven. And, we're just thinking that maybe life has changed a little bit. maybe we just need to open ourselves up to new experiences, new relationships, and just kind of take them for what they are. And so welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. I wanted to share with you that I had dated a very younger man. Actually, my ex-husband was younger than me by a few years. And, but when I was going through my divorce, I met this gentleman who is quite a bit younger than me. And I'm not going to go with the age. People will be shocked because I was actually shocked myself. But I didn't want to date him because he was so much younger than me. But he kept insisting and insisting. And he was extremely mature for his age. And he said he just didn't, he was in the military. We're here, we have a base here in the Tampa Bay area. And he wanted a little bit older woman, someone that he found still attractive, but someone that, really had her head on and that was more mature and that wasn't doing all the mind games of girl stuff that the younger girls were doing. And he was only going to be stationed here for a short time frame. And he wanted somebody that was mature enough to be able to handle a relationship like that. So he was actually looking for a little bit older woman, and not like, where a cougar was taking care of him or anything like this. He had his own apartment. He was very successful with what he was doing. Like I said, he was very mature. And I found that relationship very exciting. It was very thrilling to think that someone younger that was so handsome, would be attracted to me.
Yeah.
And, but what I found was that I made sure that I kept my boundaries, and I made sure that, number one, I treated him always as a man, but even if he was younger than me, I didn't want him to ever think that I felt otherwise. And the other thing was that I wanted him to feel like he was dating me. So I allowed him to call me up, make appointments, make dates with me, do things like that. And I didn't ever put him down. And I found the relationship to be wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Have you ever heard of this before? I would take it that you might have.
Yes. Well, and one thing you said actually reminded me of a myth that I kind of hope will be somewhat debunked through the book. Sometimes people equate a cougar with a sugar mama, and they're not necessarily the same. So people will assume if there's an older woman dating a younger man that she's taking care of him, paying his bills, that they're traveling, living some kind of lavish lifestyle. And most of the people I interviewed were, they weren't movie stars. They weren't millionairesses. They were just typical hardworking people who, for whatever reason, just kind of found themselves in these relationships and pushed through whatever fears or blocks that they had and decided to go for it.
Yeah, I'll never forget, because we never talked about age. I knew how old he was, but I never would tell him how old I was. And I remember he had come over, and I had I had gone to a reunion, and I had left the reunion pamphlet on my desk, and he picked it up. I was taking a shower, I came out, and he picked it up, and he goes, was this from your reunion? And I said, yes. Do you have a problem with that? And he said, nope, I have no problem. Do you have a problem? I said, no problem with me. And that was it. We never talked about it again. And so it was just really great, because at that time in my life, I was at the lowest, and I felt like I was unattractive. And he just uplifted me, and it was the best experience. I mean, if he ever listens to this show, which he might very well do.
I hope he does.
Yeah, that he really did help me through a very difficult time. And he was a wonderful person. The more I got to know him, the more, we talked about dating, we talked about girls, we talked about women in general. And it was just really a great experience. So I would say that if we just treat people, no matter, and don't think about their age, just treat them as normal human beings with a common interest, I think that we would definitely be able to, be more relatability. So tell us a little bit more about your book.
Yeah, well, I will, and I also want to kind of springboard off what you said. A lot of people will throw out the cliche of, age is just a number, it doesn't mean anything. But the fact that there are hang-ups around this kind of relationship oftentimes tells me that saying age is just a number doesn't solve it. It doesn't necessarily dissolve the fears or alleviate the anxieties and the worries. So part of what I wanted to do in my book was give concrete strategies for how to deal with those. And there are just a couple of things, and just to kind of highlight and skim, but understanding the difference between chronological age and biological age. So it was great that you and your boyfriend didn't really have to talk about it and tackle it, but for some other couples, they're going to need to really address, okay, so there is this age gap. What does it mean to us? If anything, maybe it means nothing, but maybe it means something. And how do we handle that? If it's creating any stress or strain on the relationship, don't put your head in the sand. That's not the way to deal with conflict, right? Go ahead and just call it out and say, listen, this is bothering me and I wish it didn't. And can you help me get to a place where it doesn't bother me? Or someone at work is giving me a hard time and I wish I knew how to respond. Really rely on each other for problem solving in those situations. And again, understanding our chronological age is how long we've been on this earth. Our biological age is how healthy and functional our bodies are. So you can be 50, and if you have a low stress life and a great diet and you exercise and you sleep and you take good care of yourself, you can feel 40, right? You can act like a 40-year-old. You can function like you're 40. You can also be 50 and have a horrible diet and you don't work out and, smoking, high stress, all those things. And you can have the body of a 70-year-old because you've got inflammation and disease and so forth. And I'm not a health expert, but I know enough to know that the age that's on your driver's license isn't always a reflection of your energy and the condition of your body.
Yeah, that is so true. I think for my circumstances, we knew that it wasn't going to be long term. Mm-hmm. And so that's why it was better for us not to deal with it. And I think you're so right that you do need to, in any type of relationship, you do have to work through some of the issues. Mm-hmm. And if, age is most certainly an issue. And I agree with you about, your body, taking care of yourself, and you might feel younger. I do feel that people are living longer these days. Mm-hmm. So they are taking care of their bodies. That health is a big issue. And going to the gym, like you said, is a great place to meet because people are definitely into being healthy and living longer. Mm-hmm. So it's a very awesome thing. I love your book. I think it's cool. Mm-hmm. I think it's very cool. Mm-hmm. And it's a great spin because I think as we get older, we do need to really change our mindset and be open to a lot of different things. So being open to meeting people and not judging so much, Mm-hmm.
Life is hard enough without that. Yeah. Life has enough challenges without us giving each other a hard time.
Right. And you are going to have some particular issues, I think, if you are dating, quite a bit younger. Mm-hmm. It's like you said about having children, if he wants to have children and she's already had her family. And so certain things like that, you are going to definitely have issues, but, dealing with those and maybe, reading your book and getting down to some of those hard questions and how to approach talking about them. I think that's a real important key.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. The way that we communicate within a relationship and the way that we resolve conflict within a relationship, regardless of age, is what's going to determine our overall happiness and the longevity of the relationship. So maybe, don't let the relationship off easy just because it's with a significantly younger person. Don't assume that he doesn't have the tools or the skills to kind of go there. They may not be as developed as yours. He also might be a lot less jaded than you are. That was a common theme. A lot of women were attracted to sort of the purity almost, or the, not naivety isn't the right word, but that younger men, they just haven't lived long enough to kind of have maybe the same amount of damage or skeletons in the closet or just accumulated hurts mm-hmm. that affect the way a person dates sometimes in their 40s and their 50s and their 60s and so on.
Yeah, that's definitely. And what about living in the moment? Isn't mm-hmm. it better sometimes to just live in the moment, just enjoy where you're at and the space that you're in and appreciate it?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a wonderful attitude and wonderful philosophy. And unfortunately, the female brain is really wired to play it safe and really wired, this is evolutionary stuff here. This is, our brains were really wired to protect ourselves and our offspring from whatever predators lurked outside the cave. And so that's kind of been wired into us, even though, we don't have to worry about dying off as a species anytime soon.
Yeah, you're so right. You're absolutely right. Well, in closing, is there anything particular you'd like to share with the audience and about your book, which is called Revising Mrs. Robinson?
Yeah, well, I hope that if anyone in your audience is either in this age gap relationship or thinking about it, or maybe you've considered it because a younger guy has hit on you, but you haven't quite been, you've been blowing him off or kind of dismissing him, consider it, pick up the book. I do coach individuals and couples around intergenerational relationship issues because I want to make sure that they have a fighting chance. And we all need all the help we can get in our relationships, regardless of age.
Absolutely. Well, that is great. So you can reach Suzanna Mathews at The Date Maven, and her book is Revising Mrs. Robinson. Now, where can we find your book at?
It's on Amazon.com as well as BarnesandNoble.com, and I would love to see it on more and more shelves of independent booksellers. So if you have an independent bookstore in your neighborhood that you would like to have carry it, you can ask for it.
Oh, wonderful. Well, that's wonderful. Well, again, it's Revising Mrs. Robinson with Suzanna Mathews and The Date Maven. So check out her site. And if you want some private personal coaching, if you kind of thought about, hey, I'd like to change it up a little bit on my dating. Maybe I might like to go a little bit younger. She can help coach you on that. So that would be a great opportunity for you. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you, Cece.
That is great. Well, this is Cece with Going Solo, and we are talking with the author and Meet the Author's Corner, and with Suzanna Mathews and her book, Revising Mrs. Robinson. Thank you so much. This is Cece with Going Solo, and you are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. Bye for now.